Let's go inside SWAC. Let's go inside SWAC. Come on, let's go inside SWAC. 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 Come on.
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Inside SWAC, along with the head drum major himself, Eddie Robinson Jr. And Eddie, this is one of those weeks that things are just getting crazy. Had a great show in Birmingham this weekend, and I hear you got involved in the action a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, I did a little bit. I had the wing working this week, but I put on my uniform, I strapped up my chin strap, and I went to war in the black and gold like a true Hornet does.
Yeah, but not in the football uniform. I think we'll have some video of that later in the show. And let's just say you have some talents that we had no idea that you had. We also have highlights from some huge SWAC games over the weekend, and we'll take a good, hard look at the conference standings and see who has the inside track to the SWAC championship game on December 12th. If you want picks, previews, and to see how Eddie looks in that band uniform, there's only one place to get it. It's right here on Inside SWAC. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, repeat Southern Battle Prairie View to the bitter end.
Never under. We are the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Well, welcome back Inside SWAC. A couple of weeks ago, Southern Battle Prairie View to the bitter end before the Jaguars fumbled on a chance at a last-second win and a shot at the top spot in the West. So when the Jaguars traveled to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Pete Richardson had his hands full, making sure Southern was ready to play. And UAPB, with only one conference loss, still had plenty to play for as they held complete control of their own destiny. Southern was sharp early as they took the opening kickoff and marched 65 yards for the game's first score as Bryant Lee hit Warren Matthews for a 13-yard touchdown. UAPB answered with a field goal before Lee struck again. This time, it was a 70-yard touchdown connection to Gary Holloman. Josh Boudreaux led the Golden Lions right back down the field. He hit Hezekiah Smith for a 33-yard score. Southern tacked on a field goal for a 17-10 halftime lead at that point. That score held all the way to the fourth quarter when Bryant Lee put the game away as he scrambled 6 yards into the end zone and SU left town with a 24-10 win. Now, Eddie, we talk about character a lot on this show. What does this performance tell you about Southern's character?
When you take a look at this type of game, for Southern and Pete Richardson, it's an old-school mentality. It's alive and well in Baton Rouge. Although they were mathematically alive for the division title, Southern knew it was a long shot, but still they showed up and put on perhaps their most complete game of the year. It shows you what happens when you have senior leadership at quarterback and also a coach who's been around for a while in Pete Richardson. And as NFL coach Herman Edwards famously said, you play to win the game. That means every time you put on that uniform, no matter who you're playing or what you're playing for, you give it everything you've got. And for Pine Bluff, it's a very tough loss. If they make it to the Prairie View game with 2 losses, this will be the game that got away. Turnovers in the red zones just can't happen at this point in the season. The Golden Lions are making strides this year, and they have talent to compete with any team in the conference. Maybe they beat Prairie View later this season, I don't know. But if they do, this will be a season of what-ifs and what should have happened. This is a game that Pine Bluff was right into the very end, but they had too many turnovers early in the ball game, and you can't overcome that against a good Southern team.
Well, there was another team in the West with only one loss trying to chase down Prairie View, and that is the Texas Southern Tigers. Head coach and alum Johnny Cole brought to Houston a reputation of an offensive wizard. And finally, the Tigers are beginning to show some magic. Still, TSU got off to a slow start on Saturday as they hosted Alcorn State. And it was the Braves scoring first as Arnold Walker took one in from 4 yards out to make the score 7-0. TSU answered with Randall Newsom's 2-yard touchdown. Alcorn came back as Tim Buckley hit Ryan Singleton for 8 yards, and ASU led 14-7 at halftime. TSU came out clicking as Arvell Nelson hit Jordan Curtis for a 15-yard touchdown. Then Martin Gilbert scored from the 1-yard line, and TSU had their first lead at 21-14. Alcorn tied the game at Buckley, and Buckley hit Singleton for another score, this one from 17 yards out. But the fourth quarter was all Texas Southern. Arvell Nelson ran 32 yards, and in order to keep their postseason hopes alive, the G-men know they have to keep winning as they hosted Mississippi Valley State. Over to Robinson Stadium we go. Both teams started slow as Grambling led 3-0 after the first quarter. In the second quarter, there was a black and gold explosion. Greg Dillon tossed 2 touchdowns, one to Van Phillips and the other to Larry Donnell. Add on a couple of field goals, and the score was 22-0 at the half. There was more Dillon in the second half as he rushed for 2 touchdowns and the lead ballooned to 36-0. Eddie Ivory put Valley on the board with a 68-yard touchdown pass to Chris Williams. But Grambling added 2 more touchdowns as they pounded Mississippi Valley 50-7. And Eddie, this was all Grambling from the get-go.
I mean, this is what you want for a homecoming performance, and absolutely, maybe the Grambling starters wanted to put this one away early so they could get a head start on enjoying all of those homecoming festivities, but they were great. I mean, the offense was very efficient, and their defense was overwhelming. They only allowed Valley 20 rushing yards. Grambling still has an outside shot to catch Prairie View, but the only thing the Tigers can do is win and hope Prairie View stumbles twice down the road. For Valley, it was a tough situation. I mean, heading to Grambling for homecoming, your quarterback, Paul Roberts, is out hurt. The Devils have to put this game behind them and prepare for next week. Indeed, I've been in these type of football games where it just gets out of control, but you got to have confidence. You have to trust in your teammates, and you have to finish the year off strong. I mean, Valley can still do some good things in this 2009 campaign.
I'm glad that you mentioned being a part of games that get out of control because, some games get out of control as soon as they start. I don't know if you saw any like that recently, but, I saw one.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Well, let me tell you, that's what we do here. We're going to move on to Birmingham to Legion Field as, they're going to host the SWAC championship game on December 12th. But on Saturday in October, the last Saturday anyway, it's the home of the Magic City Classic. There was plenty of excitement in the parking lot with tailgating, but the real fireworks were inside, and they started early. On the very first play from scrimmage, Deontay Mason hit Thomas Harris with a 57-yard strike for a touchdown. Alabama State scratched their way back when Anthony Spate hit Nicholas Andrews on a beautifully thrown fade pattern to the corner of the end zone for a 24-yard score. In the second quarter, Harris caught another touchdown pass from Mason, this one a 24-yarder, and the Bulldogs led 14-7 at halftime. In the third quarter, Ulysses Banks banged into the end zone, giving him a touchdown in 4 straight Magic City Classics. And A&M, they led 21-7 at that point. From there, Anthony Jones' defense shut the door as ASU never really threatened, and Alabama A&M coasted to a 21-7 win. Eddie, Alabama State never looked comfortable offensively, while Alabama A&M true freshman quarterback Deontay Mason looked like a veteran, moving around in the pocket, avoiding the pressure, and then hitting receivers for some big plays.
I mean, this kid was absolutely amazing, and like you said, he took control of his ball game early and often. I mean, he stood tall in the pocket, delivered the football, and took the big hits. When there was a pressure, he used his legs to buy time, and he found guys down the field. And usually with a young quarterback, when protection breaks down, he just tucks the ball under his arm and runs for his life. With Mason, he kept his eyes downfield the entire game. He would take off as if he was about to run, draw the defense to him, and just before stepping across the line of scrimmage, he'll toss it over to the defenders to one of his big-time receivers, and usually that guy was Thomas Harris. The senior All-American caught 7 passes for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mason finished the game with 273 passing yards and those 2 touchdown passes to Harris. On the other side of the ball, Alabama State, they came into the game third in the SWAC in rushing with 149 yards per game. They were held to 53 yards, and 40 of those were gained on the scramble by quarterback Anthony Spate. That put too much pressure on the ASU passing game, and they simply couldn't get it done against a very good A&M defensive front. I mean, every year in this game, there seems to be a player that out of nowhere steps up and make the big plays. It was Ulysses Banks in his freshman year with that 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, this year it was clearly Deontay Mason. This kid came out of nowhere, a freshman in a big game like this, playing well. Wow, I mean, that has to really help A&M and the Bulldogs as they go down the stretch run in the SWAC.
Yeah, Alabama A&M winning their 5th consecutive Magic City Classic. And Eddie, the Hornets may have fallen on the field, but there was plenty of action otherwise. You were in the middle of it, some of it, and we're going to take a look at that when we come back inside SWAC. Here on Inside SWAC, we get you the stats you like. We get you previews. We also get you inside access as we followed Eddie Robinson at the Magic City Classic.
Well, you know what? I had a very good Magic City Classic weekend. Even though Alabama State didn't win, I didn't make that prediction. I predicted that the mighty Marching Hornets, under the direction of Dr. James Oliver, would get the W, and I think they did. As a player, I never stayed after the football game. I would always go straight back to Montgomery and Alabama State. but this is a week-long event here in the city of Birmingham. It's hard explaining to viewers at home all of the festivities that take place. I mean, the alumni support for this game is huge, but also the city of Birmingham, the local people, they really prepare for this game, and it's really like a city fair and a football game all wrapped up in one. If you can make one HBCU Classic this year, I would have to say you should come to the Magic City Classic.
Well, Eddie, of course, we like to be factual in our statistics that we give to the audience, and the Alabama A&M band did defeat the Alabama State band, winning the Battle of the Bands. Just being factual.
Man, did you see my drum major piece?
Yeah, drum major piece was
I got
great.
it started early. I was at the parade, D. It was raining. I went out there and toughed the elements. I had on a big hat. I had the wing going, man. I was into it.
Yeah, well, it did impress
and it all transformed into halftime, and, you know, it was a good performance.
It was a great
Both
performance.
bands did well. You guys got a close second.
Yeah, they did. Okay. Of course, as much fun as these games are, they're also big business. The Magic City Classic, for example, has a $13 million economic impact, according to the Birmingham Visitors and Convention Bureau. And it's not just in Birmingham. There's 15 classics that the SWAC teams participate in, bringing hundreds of thousands of fans and tens of millions of dollars to local areas.
Man, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not an economist, and I never could figure out how they come up with that economic impact thingy. But, you know, I was buying an ASU hat, and an officer asked the vendor, hey, do you have a license to sell that hat? And he's like, no, I don't have a license. He said, well, you know, a license costs $100. He said, well, where do I get a license from? You can pay me right now. So that's how the city of Birmingham collects money in these type of events. But, you know, this game is big for the city of Birmingham and for the schools economically. I mean, Coach Eddie Robinson of Grambling State, he always talked about bringing the product of HBCU football to the big cities. He always recognized the entertainment value of the HBCU experience. You know, the football, the team, the Mighty Marching Hornets band, the Stingettes, the step shows, all of that is a great marketing tool for the university as well. And you take a look at the other classes. You had Alabama State and Mississippi Valley playing in Chicago. Now, who's going to go to Itta Bena, Mississippi to see the Delta Devils? But if you bring that product to a city like Chicago, you have a good economic impact for the city, the schools, and also it's a recruiting tool because people can learn about the universities as well. So these HBCU classes are very big events, and everyone should try to make a couple of them.
And there are a couple of remaining. There are actually 7 classics remaining for SWAC teams. Among them are the Turkey Day Classic on Thanksgiving, which will be aired on ESPNU and features Alabama State, of course. There are also the big games going down in Louisiana. The Bayou Classic in New Orleans between Grambling and Southern, airing on NBC on November 28th. All of them lead to the SWAC championship game presented by Farmers Insurance on December 12th, which will also be aired on ESPN Classic. Now, as we go to break, let's take a look at this week's SWAC Players of the Week. Quarterback Arvell Nelson of Texas Southern, 3 touchdown passes, and well, he rushed for another score in TSU's win over Alcorn. Southern linebacker Andre Coleman had a team-high 10 tackles, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery in the Jags' win over UAPB. The newcomer of the week is TSU's Martin Gilbert, who rushed 27 times for 167 yards and a touchdown. Grambling State kicker Ari Johnson was the specialist of the week. He made 3 of 4 field goals and 5 PATs en route to a 14-point Grambling big win. Now, when we come back, we'll get Eddie's predictions on the week coming up and see if we can raise your percentages when we come back on Inside SWAC.
Every day at Golden Flake, it all starts with a special premium potato that longs for something more flavor and more crunch, seeking a life of delicious variety and guaranteed freshness in every chip and every bag. That's what Golden Flake brings to the table. For us, these are the good times, finding our way to your neighborhood grocery and into your basket headed home, turning potatoes into the life of your party. Golden Flake, the South's original potato chip.
Back on Inside SWAC and Eddie. Okay, you struggled a little bit last week in your predictions. You were 3-2 last week. You won with Southern and Grambling, but you also picked Alcorn and Alabama State. Plus, we gave you a win for the Alabama State band in the Magic City Classic.
I thought we earned that.
Well, no, because technically the band lost the Battle of the Bands. I mean, we can go back and look that up.
That's according to D. Jackson.
That is according to the official stats and statistics. But nonetheless, Texas Southern, Mississippi Valley State, a lot of things going on this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a very big game. I mean, TSU is looking for a sweep over all of the Mississippi schools. They've beaten Jackson and Alcorn the last 2 games, and now they travel to Itta Bena. The progression of becoming a good team means winning when you're expected to win. Quarterback Arvell Nelson has shown improvement along with solid defensive efforts. Valley was 0 for 11 last week against Grambling on 3rd down. This offense has sputtered since the loss of quarterback Paul Roberts. It's hard to win with inconsistency at the quarterback position. You know, I like the Texas Southern Tigers. They're going to keep this thing close, and you never know. They may be able to catch Prairie View in the end of a very tough SWAC race. And one side note, Texas Southern, if you only look at the SWAC games within the conference, they're #1 in total defense in the SWAC. So they've been playing pretty good amongst their peers, and you never know. That defense can get you to a championship.
Grambling State's been to the championship quite a few times. They'll be taking on Arkansas Pine Bluff this week.
And this should be a good one. I mean, the G-men are doing it with a three-headed running attack, and they're averaging 176 yards per game. But Pine Bluff is first in the conference, only giving up 90 yards per game. Something's going to have to give. And if the Golden Lions can make Grambling one-dimensional and shut down that run, this could be an upset in the making. The story of this game could be Pine Bluff running back Mickey Dean and the improving offensive line. D, this is my upset special. I'm going to go out on a limb. The Golden Lions get it done as the West race gets even tighter, and Prairie View may have a little breathing room if they can get Grambling with another loss today. But I like Pine Bluff. I like what they're doing. They lost last week, but they played very good. All they have to do is cut down on those turnovers.
Turnovers have been a big problem for Alabama State. Now, in the Alcorn State, they made a quarterback change. They'll be taking on Jackson State this week. Will Spate be back at quarterback, or will Mitchell come back for this one?
Well, you know, first of all, the Hornets must get the sting out of that Magic City Classic loss out of their system. Anthony Spate and the ASU offense moved the ball, but they couldn't get the ball in the end zone. Now, Chris Mitchell is still banged up at quarterback, so I'm expecting to see Spate start another football game. And for JSU, they must win to keep up with Alabama A&M in the East. Coach Comegy still has uncertainty at quarterback. I mean, both teams have played well defensively, but I think the Hornets have more offensive weapons than the Tigers, and that should be the difference of the ball game. The Hornets play the role of spoilers, and they get the W over Jackson State. They have some big-time receivers down in Montgomery. If they can get them the ball and protect the quarterback, they can make big plays on offense.
Alabama A&M rolling off of that win in the Magic City Classic, taking on the hottest team out there, Prairie View A&M.
Well, you know what? This may very well be a preview of the SWAC championship game, and of course, it's our game of the week, so we're going to pull out the helmets again. No band helmets, D. I'm not going to surprise you. And I like the Panthers. I'm going to tell you why. They're coming off of a bye week with a red-hot quarterback, K.J. Black. And, of course, Donald Babers is a multi-dimensional threat at running back. I mean, Coach Frazier and Jones have a similar style, and they like to play tough defense and ball control offense. The Bulldog used a sharp passing game against Alabama State and big plays to wide receiver Tommy Harris. Freshman quarterback Dante Mason was outstanding in his first start last week and gives the A&M offense another weapon. The health of Ulysses Banks will be the big factor for the Bulldogs as they try and control the tempo and the time of possession of this ball game. You know, it's hard for a team to get up for two big games in consecutive weeks. The drive out to the Prairie View countryside has mesmerized a lot of good teams the last couple of years. I think PV gets the W, but don't worry, Bulldog fans. D, I'm going to tell you what, you'll get another chance at the Panthers because, as I predicted in Week 1, these two teams are my choice to face off in Birmingham on December 12th. And, of course, I'm also giving out my lottery numbers on the next week's show.
Your lottery numbers?
Well, you know, because I'm making all these predictions. And although I was 3-2 last week, I'm looking for a bounce-back week. I got some good picks this week, D.
Oh, boy. Well, we'll just have to keep you posted and see how that works. Now, don't forget, if you're dying to see Eddie's marching routine again, you can catch our show online at SWAC.org anytime you want. You can also follow SWAC on Facebook and Twitter. Just head to SWAC.org and click the links. For Eddie Robinson Jr., I'm D. Jackson, and we will see you at the game. Take care.